everyone. Right, okay, so today here at Evie&co I wanted to show you how we cut some of our skirts. This skirt that we're going to cut, that I'm going to show you how to cut today, is a skirt for our club member at Club Evie&co, and basically it is a monthly subscription that you pay a certain amount of money a month, and you get items sent to your door each month with exclusive new fabrics, new designs. You also get, I think it's 10% off of all other bought items, free postage on all items, so there's loads and loads. If you want any more information about Club Evie&co, please pop your name in the description box and we'll get back to you. It's just me here at the minute. The kids are upstairs playing nicely, I hope. Basically, let's get started. I'll start off with showing you a few things that we use. Also, there might be some tips and tricks along the way, so keep watching. Right, okay, so here are a few things that you're going to need to make this skirt. So first of all, you'll need a fabric of your choice. This is new and exclusive, only turned up yesterday to Evie&co. We are hoping to get more of this if it's popular. So it's unicorns, so in at the minute. Unicorns with castles, it's got little crowns on there, it's got stars, it's got hearts, it's got flowers, it's got rainbows, it's got everything a little girl would love. So you'll need a fabric of your choice, preferably, I mean, we've got 4 meters. But if you only want to make one, then I would suggest just getting 1 or 2 meters, depending on the width of your fabric. So let's get started. So first of all, I fold my fabric in a completely different way. Maybe others do it exactly the same. This is the easiest for me because I make so many of these skirts each day. If you want a video on how I fold my fabric, then pop a comment in the description box and I will make a video about how I fold my fabric to make it easier, rather than having all loads of fabric all everywhere. So I've folded my fabric in a certain way that I do, and so what we first of all what we do is, so this is going to be for a 9 to 12 month old. This is for our Club Evie&co member. She is our only member at the minute. For the girls' outfits. We're just testing it out to see how it goes. It's a monthly subscription, as I said. So this is for a 9 to 12 month old. First of all, you will need a tape measure. So you'll need a fabric of your choice, a tape measure, some tailor's chalk or some sort of chalk or something that will rub out or wash out when you put it in the washing machine. You'll need a sharp pair of fabric scissors, and I mean, I use a French curve as a ruler, but if you wanted to just use a normal ruler, that's absolutely fine. And also you'll need your measurements. Right, so first of all, we know it's for a 6 to 12, 9 to 12 month old. So what I do first is, and I'll take you along, I'll go along with what it says on here, which is something that, I mean, I've made up myself over the years of making skirts, making shorts and making other items, that this works. This is sort of just an average guide. We do take specific measurements of children, because obviously not all children are the same size. I mean, most people are okay with an average, but some people want specific sizes, so we do take that as well. If you want to order any of these, then pop a comment in the description box. Right, okay, so first of all, here is some of the measurements. I work in inches, it's just so much easier. I think I need to print this up because this looks horrendous now it's on film, but it works, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. Basically, with any of the, we do skirt to knee, skirt length to knee, so we normally do it to the knee, but obviously if other people want different sizes or they want different lengths, then that's absolutely fine. We sort of cater for everybody. It's the beauty of handmade items. So a 6 to 12 month old, waist size is 16 inches. Now I know that this is going to be more than enough for 16 inches, but obviously you want to do double or triple. It depends how fluffy you want the skirt to come out when you've gathered it all at the waistband. So I would suggest making at least 2, so 16 inches times 2, which would give you your waist length to make sure it's nice and gathered at the top. But you can do more than that. I mean, I've done 4 before and it was absolutely huge. It looked absolutely beautiful with a tutu underneath. It looked amazing. Anyway, so with each, so if we sort of put this over here for a minute, we don't need to know about this bit because we know that the waist size is more than enough, hence why I fold it the way I do. So in the skirt length, we know that 6 to 12 months old, or 9 to 12 months old is 7 inches, but you need to add a 3.5 inches to each measurement here. The reason I don't add it on here is because it gets confusing and then you'll end up thinking, oh God, have I got to add it again? I don't know, it's just the way I do it. I have done for years. So yeah, what we do is, so we know it's 7 inches, add 3.5 inches, which gives us, so we've got our 7 inches, and then we add 3.5 inches, 1, 2, 3.5 inches, which gives us 10.5 inches. So the reason that we add 3.5 inches is so that we've got an inch for an inch and 3/4, an inch and a quarter for the waistband, and we've got half an inch for the hem at the bottom. So 10.5 inches, all I do, make a mark where the 10.5 inches stops. I get my ruler or French curve or any sort of straight edge that you have lying around. I mean, just go with what you've got. You don't need any specific sort of items as long as it's straight. So we make that nice and dark so you can see. So we make a nice line. The reason that I do draw a complete line across is so that I can get a straight edge when I cut. So once we've done all of that, this will wash off. I mean, you could do it inside out, but then obviously sometimes some fabrics are quite thick. I mean, I know you can see through this one, but I've done it before. Some fabrics are quite thick, and when you're working with patterns, you need to make sure it's up the right way so you know everything is meant to be where it's meant to be. So once we've done that, we then cut along this straight edge. I hope it doesn't look wonky on the screen. Yeah, so once we've done that, we've now got what will be the skirt. So, excuse me, sorry. So yeah, as I said, this top, so obviously this is going to be the top because obviously the unicorns are up. I know the castles are up the wrong way, but the unicorns, I think, yeah, they're all up the same way. So this will be the top and this will be the bottom. So all we do, next job is to go over to the ironing board and iron this, and I'll show you how I iron this and press it in place ready for sewing. Right, so here I am over at the ironing board ready to show you how I press the skirt to make sure it's easier for sewing. Now, when someone said to me, oh my God, you know, you should press your skirts first or you should press all your items first, I was like, oh God, I've got time for that, you know? And now I live by it. Oh my God, it is the easiest way to sew your items together and make sure you get nice crisp lines always. So now we've cut the fabric. This is for a 9 to 12 month old little girl. It's going to be a skirt. So first of all, now with these salvage edges that obviously we don't want, but we don't want to cut it all down because again, that's time. So a friend of mine actually showed me how to do this. I think it was this year, because I used to overlock the edges, but this gives it a really nice handmade finish where people can actually see it's, you know, it's not from a warehouse, it really is handmade. So basically what we do is we get, so this is going to be the skirt top, and this is going to be the waistband, this is going to be the hem along the bottom, and this is the sides where we join it together. So we turn our fabric to the side, which again, this is only how I find it easier, and we fold. Now I've got an iron, and all we have to do, I'll show you a really simple way. You fold once, you fold again, and then you press it. Once that's all pressed, you do the same for the other side. Now again, this is only how I find it easier for me and quicker. So now you've got that side all pressed, that shouldn't move. We do the same for the other side. So I'd say, I mean, if people are wondering how much, it sort of depends on how big your selvage is. Now don't be wrong, if you wanted to cut this down and then just do a tiny little fold, do you know what I mean? That's absolutely fine, but it's only because we've got this at the side that I'm doing a relatively big fold at the edge. So I mean, this is about 1/2 inch fold. So I iron it again, give it a nice good press. You don't have to press too hard, but go slow. This is probably the bit that takes the longest, is the pressing of the skirt. Now yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I made over 20 skirts. Now you can imagine how warm it got in here. So once we've done the edges, we now move on to the hem. Now I do it this way only because, again, it's just easier for me that I start with the hem at the bottom. So we fold over another 1/2 inch, and then fold over again another 1/2 inch, and then start pressing. If you wanted to do it differently, so I just go along, I curl it round, the more time you take on the pressing of the skirt, it's going to take you less time to sew. Now I love sewing, but when you have got 20, 30, 40 skirts to do, it does get a little bit much, which is absolutely fine because I love all of my customers. So now we have pressed the bottom of the skirt, we now turn it around and do the other side. So what we do for the other side is we go over about 1/2 inch. I mean, I'm just eyeballing it, so it's about 1/2 inch. And see here where you can see the blue tailor chalk mark. I don't know if you can see the blue tailor chalk mark where we made the line to cut it straight. This will now be covered inside the skirt. So again, we press, we fold, we press, we fold, we press. Keep going all the way along the top of the skirt. That's pressed. Now we've got like a random rectangle. We now go over again. Now, without bending myself, I'll try and show you close up on this one. So I like to fold over the edge. It does normally follow, but I do like to just make sure that this is just over 1 inch. So I use an inch elastic to go through here for the waistband. So I do like to make sure that it's just over 1 inch, so it's not too squeezy when you try and get it in. It's about 1.5 inches. It's absolutely perfect. I mean, the more and more you do this, the quicker it will get and the easier you'll find it. And it's also a really good way, I wanted to say, it's a really, really good way to teach yourself and to sort of practice straight lines with sewing, which I found, because I could never grasp straight lines. I say to my nan, my nan and my mum, who taught me to sew, I used to be like, oh goodness sake, how am I supposed to do this straight line? Oh, so frustrating. It's driving me crazy. I don't know how to do it. I mean, obviously, you'd think a straight line would be easier. Actually, it's really not. So once we've now come to the end, let's make sure it's all nice and straight. It's all in there. Once we've come to the end of that, right, now we've got the waistband. So we've got the 2 edges that will be sewn together like this. Always sew your items with the good side facing the good side. So if you sewed it the other way, it would look strange, and you'd see all the sewing, all the cotton and everything else from the outside. Right, okay, so for our next bit, you'll need, we're going to sew this skirt together, you'll need 1 inch wide elastic, you'll need some pins and a safety pin, you'll need your tape measure, a pair of fabric scissors to cut the cotton, and your pressed skirt. I'm going to do my best to show you on camera how to do this. So we've pressed all the skirt down, it's all in place, ready to sew. My setting is on a standard setting, straight stitch. I'm going to higher up the stitch length to about a 3.4, just because I quite like the sort of long stitches in the skirt. Obviously it's your preference completely, you could have a shorter stitch length, you could have it longer. I will say if you go any longer than a 4, then you tend to find that it sort of can pull apart a little bit easier. So a 3.4 or a 2.4 is absolutely perfect. So first of all, we have to open up the seams that we've pressed. We've got to open those up to give us the flat rectangle that we've pressed down. Go to our sewing machine. Make sure everything lines up as best as it can. Pop it in the sewing machine. Always remember forward and back stitch. So back stitch, and then just you could pin this if you wanted to. You could pin this in place. It's absolutely fine. It's completely your preference. I mean, I've done so many of these, I don't necessarily need to, but if you wanted to, you could pin all the way down. Just make sure to remove your pins as you're sewing, because you don't want the needle to hit the pin and then break the needle or your sewing machine. So once you've done a forward and back stitch, we'll then just sew. If you find that it's going a bit quick, if you've got speed control, then just turn it down a little bit, and then we'll go nice and smooth. Try and line up the edge of the fabric with the edge of your presser foot. Forward and back stitch at the end, and then cut. Even if you've got a cutting mechanism on your sewing machine, you'll still get these little frayed edges. I just like to trim them off. Just trim any cotton that we can find, and then we'll move on to the hem, the bottom of the skirt. So, I mean, you can go over and press this seam open if you would like to. I mean, it's completely your preference. I tend to not. Let's give it sort of a little flatten, and then I don't know if you can see. And then on the hem, now we've got all of our seams have all pressed. This part's all sewn together. We just try and find the line that we made when we pressed this, the hem of the skirt with the iron. And try and tuck that all in. Now I do sometimes tend to pin this bottom bit, because now there's more than a few layers of fabric, it does tend to push itself up again. Then we go back to the sewing machine. And we begin to sew, leaving about 3/8 of an inch, always forward and back stitch. And we just sew all the way around that pressed hem, just being careful of the hem. So I've sewn all the way around. I'm just coming to the end, or the beginning of the where I started. Forward and back stitch, cut your threads, and then just cut any loose threads that you've got at the bottom. And you should have something like this at the bottom. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the top, or the waistband. So again, just give that a little press. I mean, you can take it to the iron. It probably would be easier if you're a beginner. Just give it a little press down, just so it doesn't move anywhere. Or you could potentially sew it down the edge, but then you'd get a sew on the other side. Just a little tip. So again, we're going to fold it, find that fold that we pressed for the 1/2 inch over, and then we're going to go over the full inch and try and find that press as well. Once you've got that in place, again, I personally would pin this just so it keeps it nice and flat all the way around as you're trying to sew. And it also gives you a start and a stop point, which is really, really good. Because sometimes I get over sewn and I'm like, oh no, I've sewn up the edge, I've sewn up the opening. So you'd start here, and you'd stop here as you sew all the way around. So just find that crease that you've pressed. Once we've got that, you'll see it's starting to look a little bit like a skirt. So again, off to the sewing machine. And we're going to do, I work it out, I sort of go with the line of the presser foot with a gap. So this is how I taught myself, and my nan and mum taught me how to sew a straight edge. It was very difficult, it took me a long while, but we got there in the end. I apologise if it keeps on going silent, I'm making sure you can see. Again, I don't know if you've watched the rest, but this is my first time doing a video. So we forward and back stitch, go nice and slow, there's no rush. And we just leave a small gap because we want the waistband to fit in this little gully that we've made up the top. I'm going to sew all of this around and I will be back to show you how to insert the waistband. So I'm now coming to the stop mark that we made with the pins. Just go nice and slow as you get towards this bit, so you don't go over or hit the pin, which I've done before and I nearly went flying, scared the absolute Jesus out of me. So forward and back stitch, and then cut your threads. I like to, whilst it's still on the sewing machine so it doesn't move around, just trim any threads that are from where we started off. So once you've done that, you can remove it from the sewing machine, and then you have a waistband. Remove your pins, and then we want to get the waist measurements for a 9 to 12 month old. Now I can, from memory, waist measurements for a 9 to 12 month old are about 16 inches. So what we have to do when measuring our elastic, be careful not to stretch it as you're measuring it. Done that before as well, and ended up with a really, really tiny waist. It was about this big, and I was like, oh goodness me, that didn't work out. So I know that a 9 to 12 month old is 16 inches, but we need to add an inch so we can overlap the elastic to join it together. So we're going to do 17 inches and making sure not to stretch the elastic as we go. So here we are at 17 inches. Let me just make a cut. Put your elastic to one side and your scissors. Now for the next part, as you can see, as I was explaining before, this is the size of a little girl for a 9 to 12 month old's little waist on average. Now you can see that obviously the fabric is much bigger than the waist. So what we do is we'll pop it in through this opening with our handy safety pin. You just push that through the elastic, give it a close, and then we'll start pushing it through the waistband, the little opening that we made, and we left an opening. Start pushing it through the waistband. So I'm going to push this all the way through the waistband. And a tip that actually I learned from a lady on YouTube is that, because I've lost ends before, as you can see, as you start to pull the elastic round, this obviously goes in. You don't want to lose this end, otherwise you're going to have elastic all the way in and you're not going to know where it is. So just wait until you've got a very small tail, and then just flap it upwards, grab a pin, just pop a pin in there to make sure this bit doesn't move as you're gathering it all the way around. So we're just going together. Again, there's no great skill to this part. I just sort of push and pull. Just making sure that you try and keep your elastic flat so it doesn't twist inside the waistband, because that's going to be extremely uncomfortable for the little one. So all the way around until we come out the other side. Just give it a little pull, give it a little tug, because we know that it's not going to move anywhere from that side. Take your safety pin out, put that to one side. Just going to trim this. And then once we've got both the ends out, we're then going to overlap them, making sure, if you just have a little feel, you should be able to feel that they're definitely flat all the way around. Little tip, don't sew your elastic together like this, because otherwise you're going to end up with like a knot of elastic in the back. So all we do is we overlap it like this, put our sewing machine settings to a zigzag stitch, because it gives more, it lets it have more give on the elastic if it's sort of weaving in and out of it instead of a straight line. So we've pulled it right out just so you can get a little bit. We've overlapped it about an inch. Again, I'm just eyeballing it. Pop it in the sewing machine and then just zigzag stitch all the way down, making sure to go forward and back at the end. You can go all the way up on a zigzag stitch and all the way down again. I do it twice, so I know that there's extra safety, that elastic is going nowhere. So off we go. We're doing 2 lines of a zigzag stitch on the elastic and going all the way back up again, making sure that it's not coming undone, and then cut your threads. Now, sometimes you get a bit of fraying from the elastic. I just like to cut that bit off. You're not going to get a frame whilst it's in the skirt, because obviously nothing's really rubbing on it, and you won't see it inside. So now all we do is we pull that in. Try not to ruffle it all the way around yet, because again I found that if you ruffle it, you've got to unruffle it to try and get a straight edge to sew this together. So we put our settings back to 3.4 straight stitch. We then go back underneath the sewing machine. Try and line up where you were before. I mean, you could put a pin in this to hold it all straight for you. I tend to not with this bit just because I've done so many, it's just easier for me. So pop your needle down to make sure that you're on the right track of the line that you'd already sewn. We don't want anything wonky. And then forward and back stitch. And then just sew that opening closed. So now we've sewn the opening closed, we'll just come to the end, forward and back stitch, cut your threads, and it's all sewn together all along the line to match up with the other lines that you've sewn the waistband down with. Trim all your little threads that you've got, and now we can gather it all the way round, moving the elastic on the inside to give us grand reveal little skirt. This is a 9 to 12 month old unicorn skirt, and here is the finished project. I hope you all love it, and if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Bye!